tinggi Gunung Kinabalu. Hai kopi sanangan, yoho i-SENSEI.
Halo, saya i-SENSEI.
Assalamualaikum. I am i-SENSEI.
Hey, i-SENSEI.
i-SENSEI.
Hello, i-SENSEI.
Hello, aku ang i-SENSEI.
I am i-SENSEI.
Hizono i-SENSEI. Onsoy.
I am i-SENSEI.
Yoko i-SENSEI.
i-SENSEI 会噶。
我是 i-SENSEI.
Izo i-SENSEI.
Hi, good morning everyone. I am i-SENSEI.
我是 i-SENSEI.
Hi, i-SENSEI.
Winnie, i-SENSEI.
Hello, ngài he i-SENSEI.
Yoko i-SENSEI.
我是 i-SENSEI.
Good evening, everyone. Salam sejahtera, salam sabah hebat. Katakan tidak kepada nombor 16, katakan ya kepada 10 terbaik. And salam day to change from PPD Kota Kinabalu. As with any other function, we'll start with asking God for His grace so that our program will run smoothly. And with that said, now let me invite my friend Muhammad Faiz Jauharia bin Muhammad Jamil from PPD Semporna to do the prayer recital. Over to you, Muhammad Faiz.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi taala wabarakatuh. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin. Hamdan hamidin, hamdan yuwafi ni'amahu wa yukafi'u mazidah. Ya Rabbana lakal hamdu kama yanbaghi li jalali wajhi wa 'azimi sultanik. Ya Allah, ya Tuhan kami, Tuhan yang menguasai seluruh alam, sesungguhnya kami berhimpun pada hari ini bagi menyatakan kesyukuran di atas kurniaan-Mu yang tidak ternilai. Jadikanlah kami hamba-hamba-Mu yang sentiasa bersyukur dengan nikmat yang Kau berikan. Ya Allah, ya Tuhan kami, sesungguhnya Engkau Maha mengetahui bahawa kami di sini ingin menimba ilmu-Mu yang sangat luas bagi mengembangkan potensi kami sebagai hamba-Mu yang Engkau redai. Justru berkati dan rahmatilah perhimpunan kami pada hari ini. Kurniakanlah kami apa kiranya ilmu-Mu. Sinarilah hati-hati kami dengan cahaya dan hidayah-Mu. Semoga dengannya kami mudah menerima dan mengamalkan ilmu yang Kau berikan. Ya Fatah, Ya Alim, kurniakanlah apa kiranya kepada kami kesihatan anggota badan, kecergasan minda, ketenangan jiwa, kekuatan semangat. Semoga dengannya kami mampu mendapati cabaran, berdaya saing, serta mampu mengangkat martabat diri, keluarga dan organisasi kami. Dan semoga dengannya kami mampu mengikuti iSENSEI CPD #12 dengan jayanya. Rabbana atina fid dunya hasanah wa fil akhirati hasanah wa qina azabannar. Sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammad Nabi Ummi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa barik wa sallam. Walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alamin. Amin.
So thank you very much, Muhammad Faiz, for that prayer. We thank God for this session today. And so before we go any further, may I just ask everyone who are tuning in today to just write your name in the chat and write where you are tuning in from. If you are in SISC, we hope that you will let us know you are from which district. Okay? And so I'd like to introduce the person behind the successful organization of this CPD #12. May I call upon our friend Miss Yong Pena. Here she is. Let me show. Let the technician show her face. There she is. That's her. That's right. That is Miss Yong Pena. Would you like to say something, Miss Yong?
Hi and a very good evening to everyone. Welcome on board. Okay, have a enjoyable night tonight. And I hope you can learn a lot from Dr. Siva tonight. Thank you.
Okay, that's right. I'm sure we'll be able to take full advantage of tonight's session. Yeah. And yeah, thank you. That was Miss Yong Pena, who is our SISC Bahasa or Language SISC from PPD Kota Kinabalu. Okay, so um, again, I'd have this privilege of inviting on stage our SISC plus Sabah coordinator, Mr. Tuan Haji Iqbal Khan bin Haji Ismail. He is our penolong pengarah sektor pembelajaran, and also, as I said just now, he is our SISC Sabah coordinator or SISENSEI iSENSEI program coordinator. So I'd like to give the floor to Tuan Haji Iqbal untuk memberikan kita sepatah dua kata untuk memulakan program pada hari ini. Dipersilakan Tuan Haji Iqbal.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Terima kasih saudari pengacara majlis Puan Elsie yang berusaha, Dr. Sivakumar Kumarasan, American Board of NLP, Certified NLP Trainer, ahli-ahli panel, tuan-tuan dan puan-puan yang saya hormati sekalian. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera. Alhamdulillah, bersyukur kita kehadrat Allah Subhanahu wa taala kerana dengan izin dan limpah kurnianya dapat kita bersama-sama dalam bengkel Accelerated Learning with NLP Modeling iSENSEI CPD #12. Saya juga ingin merakamkan ucapan terima kasih kepada semua kerana dapat meluangkan masa untuk menyertai sesi webinar ini. So untuk makluman tuan-tuan dan puan, jangan stres, sesi kita pada malam ni dia punya tema adalah santai. Hujung minggu setelah tuan-tuan dan puan-puan menghabiskan masa seminggu untuk bekerja secara formal. So pada petang ini kita buat secara santai. Before we begin, I would like to give a warm welcome to our guest speaker for the night, Dr. Sivakumar Kumarasan. He is the trained NLP trainer who desires to assist others in achieving personal and organizational empowerment. I hope that we will all be able to take away new knowledge from this event and apply it to our work ethic. In addition, the sharing is expected to help with personal development through showing improvements in emotional intelligence and accelerated learning. This will allow all of us to grow with better communications and strategic thinking skills. Tuan-tuan dan puan-puan, adalah menjadi harapan kita juga agar CPD #12 ini, iaitu memang dalam planning kita untuk buat perjumpaan yang berkaitan dengan latihan sekurang-kurang dia sebulan sekali. Kali ini dapat membantu untuk memertabatkan dan memperkasakan lagi individu dan organisasi, di samping dapat mempertingkatkan kecergasan emosi, perkembangan pribadi serta dapat berkomunikasi dengan lebih berkesan dan memperolehi pemikiran yang strategik untuk mendapatkan solusi kreatif pada isu-isu yang sama ada di organisasi ataupun secara pribadi. Hadirin yang dihormati sekalian, sebelum mengakhiri ucapan ini, saya sekali lagi mengambil kesempatan untuk merakamkan penghargaan kepada semua yang terlibat, sama ada secara langsung atau tidak langsung, dalam menjayakan bengkel CPD #12 ini. Dan semoga usaha dan kerjasama ini akan berterusan dari semasa ke semasa insyaAllah. Terima kasih tidak terhingga kepada rakan-rakan yang sudi menyahut cabaran untuk menjadi JK pelaksana pada malam ni. Ada juga yang sibuk dengan komitmen tetapi masih sanggup untuk menyahut cabaran ini. Tuan-tuan, puan-puan sangat dihargai komitmen tuan-tuan dan puan. Dengan itu, sekian. Terima kasih. Wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Back to you, Madam Elsie.
Thank you very much, Tuan Haji Iqbal, for that refreshing speech. Okay, as Tuan Haji Iqbal said, let's not be so formal. Let's unwind and take this session as our relaxation session, aka yoga sessions. So without further ado, let me introduce to you our moderator for today, who is our seasoned language coach from PPD Kinabatangan. It is my privilege to introduce to you Mr. Adrian Tan Siu Lee. May I call him to be on stage? Mr. Tan, please. There
Hi,
there
Elsie.
he is. Yes. Hi, Adrian. So Adrian is the language SISC plus, as I said, from Kinabatangan Education Department. He has been coaching, Adrian, English teachers since 2013, and most recently Malay as well. Language teachers now you are coaching, So he focuses on creating professional learning communities to not only trigger systematic discourse, but also boost the confidence of the teachers in sharing at community level. So with that, I give the floor to Adrian. Over to you, Adrian.
Thank you for that lovely introduction, Elsie. It's always such a pleasure getting to work alongside brilliant people like you. Now, good evening, everybody, and welcome to the 12th installation of a continuous series of professional development courses, aptly named iSENSEI, which is organized by the State Education Department together with the SICs, right? I'm your moderator today, Adrian. Now, let's get a few housekeeping matters addressed first. While the session is underway, feel free to post comments and questions in the live chat so that our speaker can respond to them whether immediately or later on in the Q&A session. Let's keep that live chat alive, all right? Now, if this is your first time with us, now the iSENSEI program is a series of CPD courses centered around education. And to me, most importantly, it is promoting discourse among educators, even through this pandemic. Now, surely, even with the limitations of traveling and organizing face-to-face workshops, there is still an innate sense in us to continuously improve ourselves, regardless of the pandemic. Now, having said that, that's truly on point then, that tonight we will be embarking on an in-depth, methodical, and introspective unpacking of individual potential. Today, you guys are going to enjoy yourselves because today, Dr. Sivakumar Kumarasan will show us how we can truly bring out and the potential in us through intrapersonal exploration. Now, a lecturer hailing from University Malaysia Sabah. Now, our speaker today, Mr. Dr. Sivakumar, right, is the associate professor who founded the chemical engineering program in 1998. Notably, throughout his tenure, he has been the keynote speaker on various occasions, the more recent ones being the TEDx UMS 2018, and the Human Resources Development Fund 2019 conference in Kuching. Now, Dr. Sivakumar Kumarasan is also an American Board of NLP certified NLP trainer, which he got in Manchester, United Kingdom in 1996. Now, all that aside, the more important thing that I gathered after talking to him for just 15 minutes yesterday is his ability to converse with people. Now, really converse, not just small talk, but insightful conversations. And he's extremely well-versed in areas of personal development, emotional intelligence, and obviously accelerated learning with NLP. Now, I love this quote by our speaker. They say change is only constant, yet at times change can be sudden and challenging. Now, this is spot on, especially now, because we do have to adapt, not just due to COVID-19, but I think we do have to adapt due to the rapid change of technology and become more relevant and efficient in our learning dimensions as well. Now, we have to be relevant. Now, having said that, without further ado, please give a warm iSENSEI welcome to our speaker for tonight, Dr. Sivakumar Kumarasan. Dr. Siva, are you with us today?
Hi, Adrian. Thank you very much for the really, really nice introduction. Before I start, I guess I want to thank Tuan Iqbal for supporting this and also Shobha, who initiated the whole project with all of us together. So thank you to the team and to all of you for having me today. So Adrian, how do we start? Do you want to start with the slides as we presented earlier?
Yes, I think so.
Okay.
Let's go ahead.
All right. So guys, as Elsie said, we do very santai today. I'm, as you guys, maybe you guys are wondering, I'm actually Sabahan as well. I grew up in Tambunan and then I moved to Papar and finally ended up in KK. And so if I have very rojak punya accent and I sleep in Sabahan punya bahasa, then okay lah kan. But anyways, let's continue.
I think you will sound more natural.
Bah, okay. I'm going to share with you guys what I've been really passionate about for the last, I didn't realize it's been 25 years since I started NLP. So because we all have something in common. All of us are teachers or lecturers, and you know, it's really hard work, meaning that we all do this because we really feel something for the students that we care about. And so I thought I'd share with you guys what I figured out over the last 25 years from an NLP point of view. I can't claim to be an expert. I can only share with you what I know. But let's start with a video, okay? So those of you who are out there on YouTube watching me, just pay attention to this video and see what the answer is, okay? Okay.
This is a test of selective attention. Count how many times the players wearing white pass the basketball. How many passes did you count?
Okay, so I guess you guys have the live chat. I don't know if it's coming in on my screen, but if anyone can answer, how many passes did you guys manage to see? Sorry, Adrian, I can't hear you.
I'm looking at the live chat as well. There's so far no feeds yet.
Okay, so whatever answer that you got, let me play the next part of the video.
The correct answer is 15 passes.
Okay.
But did you see the gorilla? This video is from research by Daniel Simons and Christopher Chabris.
All right. So let me just stop the sharing for a while and just have a discussion based on that video. I use this as part of what I do whenever I do NLP training. So for those of you who just watched this and you were paying attention to the basketball passes, probably most of you got the 15 or you missed it by a bit. But whenever I run this test, more than half the people in the group didn't see the gorilla. Okay. Okay, so Adrian, did you manage to see it just now?
Yeah, we have a comment here on YouTube. She said that she lost count the minute she saw the gorilla walk in.
Okay, this is really, really good news because actually what I want to share with you is human beings, we have two types of focus. Okay, so Elsie thought she saw more than 15. Okay. So what happens is human beings, especially when we're adults, what makes us successful in executing tasks and getting better at our jobs is that we can focus, we can have tunnel vision. And probably those of us who are teachers, and I have a 14-year-old, I don't know about you guys who have kids, you notice that your kid does something and then gets distracted by the cat or goes and plays with something, and you get agitated because your kid can't finish anything because they can't focus. Okay? But it turns out what makes us function very well as adults, that we can have a narrow focus, is also what makes us miss information around us because we don't notice what else is going on. But for children, until the age of about 12, they've got what's called a lantern awareness. You are aware of everything around you, but you don't really focus on one thing. So for maybe some of you, you're teaching children who are below 10, they may be able to count faster than you can because they can see all the objects at one time. Whereas for adults, we have to do 1, 2, 3, 4. But in terms of getting things done, we're much better than the kids. Okay. But
We're more
one of the
conscientious, right?
in a way. So one of the keys that enables us to become more creative is we have to kind of be able to switch on what the kids does while still being able to focus on what we want. Okay. So let me continue with the slides. So I hope that sort of showed you some of the interesting things that we can do as human beings. Normally when I do training or I do lectures, I do ask people to few things. In English, we say pay attention. In Malay, we say beri perhatian. So actually, one of the most precious things that human beings have is your attention, because it enables you to pick up things, but as also as get things done. Okay. But the other thing is also to have an attention. So I know we all santai, tapi kalau you guys just think about it, what is it that you want to get out of this talk from me? And you don't have to get everything. Just even if you got one thing that's useful and you use it, it can totally change everything. Okay. Normally when I teach or train, I always tell people take as much notes as they can because they're going to pick up different things. And in this context, using StreamYard, we can do it. But normally if I do live lectures online, I do ask my participants to turn on their video and microphone and reduce the distractions, because there's something funny happening. When you all work as teachers, including myself, we think we're teaching people a certain sequence of things. So there's a conscious teaching. We tell people there's an order of information we want them to master, and we test them based on whether they can repeat the structure. Okay. But because you're a teacher or you know the material better than the students, you also know indirect ways to tell the students about what you're trying to teach them. You give them examples, you make them go through certain exercises, you make them do reflections. So this sort of triggers their deeper learning reflective processes. But the other interesting thing that happens between people is if two people are communicating and they both have a similar intention, actually there's communication that's happening between both of them that neither one of them realize. And the simplest analogy I can share with you is, have you ever seen when your friends fell in love with their partner? And at that time, there's a period when neither one of them knew that they liked the other, but you could see it. So actually, human beings always have this unconscious communication happening. And if you know how to use it deliberately, you can actually accelerate how fast people learn. Okay. You just need to know that it's always happening in the background. Okay. Let me continue with the next slide. Okay. One of the things that I always tell people is that everything really starts with awareness, from our senses to what we're thinking to what we're feeling. And as you're listening to me, just kind of look around your room wherever you're sitting. Okay. And even if maybe you've been sitting in this room for like 10 years and it's a family home, maybe if you just pay attention, you might see something that you've never seen before, or even the light falls on your table differently, that is a certain shade of color that you never saw. Okay. And if you pay attention to what you're hearing around you, maybe apart from my voice, you have the fan in the background. Maybe there's an aircon if you're in an aircon room, or if you're next to a window, you might hear a car passing by. And some people, once they start paying attention to their hearing, you can actually hear your nose, like when you breathe in and you breathe out, you can actually hear the sound of the air. And for people, some people who are super sensitive, you can actually hear the blood in your ears. Okay, so as you get more sensitive, you pick up more stuff. And finally, I'm going to ask you guys something very, very obvious. Which hand's warmer, left or right? If you just pay attention to your hand, how many of you, the left hand's warmer? How many of you, the right hand's warmer? Okay, so Adrian's the left, maybe?
I feel like my right hand is warmer, I think.
Okay. Now, this is the funny question I ask everyone. These hands are attached to your body, right?
Right.
How come you don't know which one's warmer?
Probably just never thought about it, right?
So this is one of the powers of human beings. Until we pay attention to something, we don't know what's happening. And amazingly or sadly, one of these horrible stuff that affects us is the moment you look at your phone. You can just try this now. If you have a phone right now, and I know I can't see you, but you guys can see me. The moment you look at your phone, for most people, you can't actually feel anything below your head. Just try it, Adrian. Just look at your phone.
Okay.
And the moment you pay attention on your phone, can you actually feel your body much, or you feel your head more?
I think definitely the sensory around my head and shoulders up feels more alert.
Yeah. And the moment you put your phone down, actually you can start feeling your shoulders and your body again.
Yeah. I mean,
yeah,
a little bit, yeah.
All right. So this is another interesting thing about people. And unfortunately, we've been doing all this online learning for the last almost 2 years now. And it's really affecting everyone. We're kind of switching off certain parts of our bodies and our brains because we're just looking at stuff and we don't feel below. And when I go on to the next part of our explanation, actually a lot of your unconscious mind and your learning happens from your feelings and your body sensations. Okay. All right. Let me continue with the slides. So some very brief introduction about myself. I work as a chemical engineering lecturer at UMS. I've been there since 1998 when I started the program, but I've always had some other interesting hobbies. I was a Qigong practitioner. I used to teach people how to do Qigong. I ran a spa for about 5 years while working at the university. And so if some of you are from KK, we ran this spa called South Sea Sanctuary. And we ran it from 2010 to 2014, and we won a couple of awards. But the last thing was my real passion for the last 25 years has been NLP. I learned it while I was doing my master's in Manchester, and I've been using it for teaching and training since. Yeah. So this is what I'm going to kind of share with you guys, depending on time. So Adrian, do tell me if I'm running out of time, and we'll adjust. Okay?
Don't worry. Don't worry about it. Right.
But I want to share with you guys about certain things about the basic elements of NLP. What I figured out about accelerated learning, because I've done coaching for kids of different ages to adults, so almost 70, to help them how to learn faster. And then I also want to share with you guys about my point of view about the learning cycle. In fact, as teachers, you all know this, but I wanted to give you a different angle to look at it. Okay. And if we have time, we'll do some of the NLP tools that you can use. And we'll talk about something called modeling, which is the NLP approach for figuring out how people learn. Okay. So NLP stands for Neuro Linguistic Programming. And if you guys Google it or see it on Wikipedia, one of the first things that everyone asks me is that, is it pseudo-scientific? Is it work? Does it work? Is it a scam? And I want to answer this upfront because I'm also scientifically trained. I do science research. And NLP, the founders, actually what they did was they went and studied people who are really good at what they did and came up with systems how to do it. Unfortunately, some of the claims of why things work later on scientifically we found out weren't correct. The mechanism turned out to be wrong, but the method still works. Okay, so a similar analogy is for teachers. Maybe many of you guys learned about the VAK, using it, visual, auditory, kinesthetic learners.
Yes,
scientifically, we've proven that it's not correct, but actually functionally as a way to approach teaching and learning, it's actually still very useful. Okay, so this NLP's got kind of that. So first thing is about neuro, about how your senses work. So even just now when I did the one with your hands, NLP has a lot of emphasis on how you use your senses to pick up and to process information and your learning. And the more you're able to adapt your senses, the faster and better you can learn. So for instance, some of you may be people who teach PE, or some of you may be martial artists in past trainings. You all have that experience of how time can slow down when you're in competition. And that's actually a function of how you use your eyes. Okay. There are some people who are very high EQ, and when I did studies with them, one of the things that we found out was people who have high EQ actually have interesting hearing. They can pick up different sounds about people's emotions. So they can change. The moment you tell a lie and your voice pitch goes up, they can pick it up. The moment you're more sincere and stronger and your voice drops down, they can pick it up. Okay. The other thing is NLP is about linguistic language. So just test this. If you said to yourself, I must do this, or I want to do this, or I have to do this, which one works? Which one gives you that feeling that you want to move?
The one that I say I must do it.
Okay, so Adrian is similar to me. We're both when I must works. But for some of you, maybe if that's what your parents used to do to you, I must feels like a burden and you in fact want to resist and run away. So the linguistics of how you use language to talk to yourself as well as other people actually affects you a lot. And lastly, programming is about how you sequence what your senses are and what your language is to change how you learn and adapt to things. Other ways of describing NLP is it's the study of subjective experience. But the silly example I also like to tell people is, I'm very Sabahan. So for those of you who are Sabahan, we have this thing called butot, right? Okay, butot is this worm that grows in the sago tree.
Okay, yeah.
And for Sabahans, we either eat it live or we cook it. It's kind of a delicacy. So for some people, it's very gully that you eat worms. But for some people, it's delicious.
I mean,
The
that
worm
can.
is okay. What's the difference? The worm is the same. The difference is the people are different because of the way you think about it. And for me, actually, butot is like cheese, and I like cheese. Okay.
Yeah. Some people don't like cheese, right? Some people don't like blue cheese, and they say it's the durian of cheeses.
So depending how you kind of how you associate things in your mind, you can actually change how you experience things. So maybe you guys have students who are like they like challenges. So the more difficult it is, the more motivated they get. But some people are like, the harder it is, the more they want to run away. It's a lot depends on how you represent things in your mind. Okay. So that's what one of the things about NLP. We learn how people represent things, and we can change it. If you know how you do it to yourself and you know how to change it, you can actually totally change your life experience. Another analogy is like if you could tune the color on your TV, the clearer it is, the more easy it is for you to see it. Okay. All right. So if you guys don't mind me sharing the next set of slides, I wanted to kind of tell you one of the major things that can help you learn is actually really understanding your senses. Okay. And because you're teachers, I'm going to kind of skip the VAK learning concept, but I'm going to kind of tell you the psychological aspect. Okay. Our major processing is actually visual. There's about 70% of your brain that goes into processing information visually. So this is probably why things like mind mapping, color markers, drawing as you talk about the topic that you're teaching tends to help students pick up better. Okay. But the thing that people don't really tell you is actually how you focus your eyes also changes how you perceive things. Okay. Learning how to read turns out to be one of the most amazing skills that human beings actually are able to do. Because in nature, there's nothing that's black letters on white paper. So your eyes are not designed to focus on little black things on white paper. And the interesting thing that once you taught yourself to be able to do this, the other thing that happened was you're able to sit down and focus on a certain spot. So actually learning to read was one of the major mental technologies that shifted human civilization. Okay. And the weird thing is, once you learn how to read a certain thing in a language, you can't unlearn it.
Yes, I was that I think is one of the things that we have to face, which is to unlearn so
Right.
that we can relearn, isn't it?
Yeah. So if you see a particular word, you instantly know it, you hear it in your head. And I teach hypnosis, and people ask me if like hypnosis can control people's minds. But when you learn how to read, you basically have taught yourself a new form of reality, and you can't unlearn it. Okay. All right. The next thing is about how you hear, auditory. And again, depending which side you hear on, you actually have a preferred hearing. So from where people hold their phones, you can tell which ear they like listening to. And how do I explain this? If someone was gossiping to you or telling you a story, you'd actually lean with that ear. And
I
if
have
any
not
of you,
noticed that. I will be noticing that from now on.
and you can notice the other one even better. If you guys teach little kids or you have little kids like below 10, when you tell them something they like listening to you this way. The moment you scold them, they'll like turn their head and go this way. So the moment your kid shows you the non-dominant ear, they're not listening to you.
Okay, I'll try to take note of that when I'm
that's
reprimanding my child.
All right. And the other one is kinesthetic, which is how you what you feel. And this is actually where a lot of the what we call the subconscious mind is, because your intuition, your feeling whether you're comfortable or wanting to do something is actually in your body. Okay, training yourself to be more sensitive to your body is actually something that actually speeds up your learning. Of course, there's smell and taste, and this is just more that certain smells tend to trigger certain emotions that make you learn better. But there's two other senses. Actually, we don't have 5 senses; we've got 7. There's one called proprioception, which is basically how you feel the border of your body. And the easiest way to explain this is: have you ever walked in a shopping complex and suddenly you felt like stopping, and then suddenly someone's little kid runs in front of you, and you actually didn't notice the kid, but something made you feel like you want to stop walking? Or another feeling is more that you're walking you're walking with your family, and usually, maybe your wife and you or your husband and you are walking and the kids are behind you, but suddenly you have a feeling to stop, and then you turn around and you see that one of your kids is tying their shoelace. Okay, that's actually part of this sense, because this proprioception actually gives us a sense of what is the boundary of our body, but also gives us a sense of people around us. And this ability to feel people around us is also what makes us be able to connect to people emotionally. And unfortunately, once we went to online learning, especially when you can't see people, you lost that. And that's why live teaching, there's a lot of stuff happening. Okay. And the last one is something called vestibular, which is the 3 circle things in your ear. And it's supposed to help your balance. Okay. But there's something funny to share with you. Your sense of gravity and your emotions are linked.
How so?
Because we've always got gravity pulling us down.
Right.
Okay. So if you trust your partner or your friend, you can actually get them to put you in a chair and kind of lean you back until you get to that point where you don't feel your body weight.
Okay. All right.
And at that point, try and remember something that made you angry. You can get the memory, but you can't feel the feeling.
Okay, I'll have to try that though.
You have to try this, but be careful, because the couple people I thought fell down.
I'll put a mattress behind me while doing it. It's like one of those trust fall exercises, is it?
But actually, your sense of gravity really affects your emotions.
Okay.
Yeah.
So would you say then, like how people go for zero gravity exercises, do they then are they affected like emotionally? How is that?
So what I do, I do therapy with NLP as well. So one of the funny things I do is I get people to sit down and remember the emotion. Then I get them to go into the zero gravity. They remember the memory, but they forget the emotion. And after you do it a couple of times, they feel more neutral about the negative experience that they had.
So that's your relearning thing that you were talking about.
Yes, you're helping rewire the emotions by resetting the gravity.
Okay, all right, interesting. You got to try that one day.
Like I said, get a friend you can trust. Okay. Okay. How are we doing on time, Adrian? Good.
They are doing good. Keep it up.
Okay. I want to share with you guys a video. Adrian and I were laughing about this earlier. Okay. It's going to take about 2.5 minutes. I hope you guys enjoy it. It's a fun video. Let me turn on the speakers. Yeah.
The next week, I brought Rich to Mom's birthday dinner, sort of a surprise present. I figured she was going to have to accept Rich, like it or not. Rich, this is my father. Happy birthday. And Mom, this is Rich.
Great to meet you. Boy, something smells wonderful. I guess we came to the right place, huh? Here you are. Waverly has been telling me that you are the best cook.
Thank maybe we got her. So many spots on his face. Of course, the night was still young. Thank God I already prepped him on the Emily Post of Chinese manners. Actually, there were a few things I forgot to mention.
Let me make a toast.
You should have had a second glass when everyone else had only half an inch just for taste. You should have taken only a small spoonful of the best dish until everyone had had a helping. Yes, but that's a tough. You should have bragged he was a fast learner. But the worst was when Rich criticized my mother's cooking, and he didn't even know what he had done. As is the Chinese cook's custom, my mother always insults her own cooking, but only with the dishes she serves with special pride. This dish not salty enough. No flavor. It's too bad to eat. Please. That was our cue to eat some and proclaim it the best she'd ever made.
His chopstick skills aren't that bad. Oh no, this is the one. This is the one. Look at that! Look at that death stare.
So, how's your mom react when you told her not to learn?
It never came up.
How come?
She'd rather get rectal cancer.
He doesn't even know what he did wrong.
No. Okay, let's discuss that a bit more. So I guess let me hide it. Or if you guys can turn off the slides for a while. Sorry. Okay, cool. I like to show that video because there's a lot of things happening there. But if you weren't from the Chinese culture or maybe Asian culture, you miss it. I watched it with a friend of mine in 1993 in Texas, and it took for an hour after that. I kept explaining to him what happened, but he couldn't get it because he's a white American guy, and he never understood the part about the ketchup. Okay. Well, for all of us, we all have that auntie or grandma or even our mom who tells us, "Oh, not nice, not nice, not nice. You know, it's okay. You guys don't like it." But actually, we say they're punching for minta puji lah, kan?
You know, when you say it's nice, then they say no lah, no,
Yeah.
it's not so nice lah. Okay only lah. You know, they will say things like that, right?
But actually, they're waiting for someone to say that's really nice, auntie. You know, next time I come, I want to eat again. So my friend doesn't understand this context of why our culture works that way. And in fact, for some of you who are from Chinese background or very traditional Chinese background, this is part of the Lu Jia Sixiang, right? About how we. Okay, I'm trained in the Confucius part as well. But
Dr. Siva can continue from there. I think it's not a problem. Okay, just to give everyone a brief, a quick brief about what happened. There was some technical issue from YouTube. I think they were like probably worried that whatever we played had some copyright issues. But I think that shouldn't be a problem because it's only a short clip. It's not the entire movie or the entire song. So moving on, Dr. Siva. You're talking about telling your friend in the US.
I was just saying that my friend, they know the manners that takes Asian and Chinese manners, and so he can't pick up things. Okay.
Yeah.
So one of the things I want to share with you guys about accelerated learning is kind of like that. There's some really simple building blocks. Once you know it, everything else seems obvious. So I want to share those pieces with you.
To the conscious person, it's obvious, right?
But no, once you know what to look for, you can see it.
Right.
So I want to share with you guys what things to look out for. Okay. So let me continue with the slides. I'm not sure who's controlling it. Let's see. Cool. Okay. You can Google this. You guys can learn much faster or much more than what I'm going to be sharing. But there's one basic idea. There's this thing called accelerated learning, when people learn easily and fast. But all these methods, whether you're doing mind mapping, speed reading, some other methods that accelerate your learning, there's one commonality to it, which is it's a combination of two states or two emotional and mental states, which is your body is really relaxed, okay, but your mind is very alert. So this is why I was saying that one of the problems when we have this, we disconnect from the body. So part of, if you want to be able to learn faster and teach your students to learn faster, is to just tell them to pay attention to their bodies by feeling it. That's why I asked you guys to feel your body. And wherever you guys feel the tension, actually it makes your thinking slow down. if you can relax your body, you find that you can think without having to push your mind.
I definitely agree, because if you are in a tense state,
it's usually here.
It's called you get pinhole vision and all that stuff, isn't it? You won't be able to see it. You are not aware of anything that's happening. Yeah, very true that.
So relax your body, and you can either just sit down and slow down and just pay attention to your body, or if your body is really tense, there's some simple things you can do. You guys can Google something called the vagus, VAGUS nerve massage. But basically, you just take your finger and you just press the skin on the ear, not even pressure it. And as you move the skin up and down, your whole body starts to relax. Seriously, you can feel
I don't look so good in the video feed doing this though.
Sorry,
but I completely feel satisfied doing it.
Yeah. Okay. Not in the ear, on the skin on this side.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
Not inside your ear, but like this surface.
Okay.
The one next to the hole.
Goodness, I don't think I'm doing it right though. Right.
That's the flat surface. Anyway, relax your body, or you exercise your body, or walk around until your body kind of calms down. And the other part is to really have an alert mind. But basically, an alert mind just means paying attention to your senses. Okay, what you see, what you hear, what you feel. And so that's the first part. The second part is basically about you need to have an intention or focus. Why do you want to learn what you want to learn? So as educators, one of the important things to start with is when you teach your students, to tell them why it's important, or tell them to decide why they want to master the material.
Yes.
Because the moment you have a clarity of why or what you want, as you're listening, you know how to pick up. But if you start without a purpose or without an intention, it's kind of like trying to shove a mihun up a straw. It's kind of not there. Okay. One of the ways to set your intention or your goals or your outcomes is to have more clarity on what it looks like, sounds like, and feels like. So for students, sometimes their goal is like, I want to get an A, or I want to be best student, or I want to be better. But actually, words don't mean much to humans. You have to be able to visualize it. Like,
or would you say words mean different things to individuals?
Yeah,
like,
different things. Right. But also, if it's just a word, but you can't visualize what it looks like in your life, you don't feel the motivation. In fact, you will start procrastinating. So clarity of your words, of how you define what you define, makes it easier for you to want to move there. So like, if a student said like, okay, I want to get these sort of results. So they either see maybe the exam results in a paper, or they see their parents being happy with them, or they tell themselves, I've done a good job. When they can get to that level of visualization, then it becomes more personal. Okay. And so that helps you set the goal. The other thing with accelerated learning is just being able to answer this seems very obvious question, but it's like what we talked about, the Bloom's taxonomy. How will you know you have it, or how do you know that you know?
Yes.
And for many of my students,
that's actually very difficult to truly dissect, like to actually, break down each and every level in Bloom's taxonomy to actually understand it.
Yeah. So for my students, until they came to university, for a lot of them, they thought, I know because I've read the book.
Okay.
But actually, like for you guys as teachers and me as well, the thing is like, okay, you know when you can answer the questions and you can explain it to your friend. Because they thought it's the passive side. Yeah. Okay. Right. Then, of course, you learn with all your senses. You guys have probably know these are some methods you guys can Google.
Yes. Right.
Some are really ancient, like SQR3 is like from like the 50s. But these are all methods that you can explore. And I'm giving all the slides to Shobha, so you guys can have full reference to all of this as well, yeah?
Yep.
Okay. I want to talk about this. Okay, this is something that can help you learn faster for yourself. Okay. In psychology and in NLP, we talk about conscious and unconscious mind. And the easy way to define it is your unconscious mind is whatever you're not conscious of now. Okay.
Right.
So your logical or your conscious mind tends to do things like you can problem solve, you can analyze things, you can make logistical or linear type of decisions. But your unconscious mind is kind of interesting because your memories, like if I asked you right now, can you think of your favorite toy when you were a kid? When you were 6 years old, and almost instantly you have a picture pop up in front of you. Or if I asked you, like, if
It's
you
not just
smell
the object though, it's even the experience of playing it, like, you know, right?
So how come until I asked you, you didn't know? But once you knew, you don't have to go through all the many years that have passed to get to that. Memory and your unconscious mind is instant. Okay. Similar things about your emotions. Like for many of us, I grew up with my grandma in Seremban. When I smell certain type of Indian food, I just think of her, and there's a
Okay.
certain emotion. Okay.
You know,
Sorry.
that reminds me of a very emotional scene in a cartoon called Ratatouille. Did you watch that cartoon,
No.
Ratatouille? Yeah,
Oh
you
wait,
can watch that.
Ratatouille,
Yeah,
I've
because
seen it.
when the critic is when the critic ate that
Yeah.
food, he immediately
He
there
felt
was a
love.
that's a great visualization of him going back to his. That's what you mean, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Right.
All right.
And all this is, and then your unconscious mind, interestingly, is the one that runs your body. But more importantly, your unconscious mind is the part that manages your intuition.
Okay.
And there's
All right.
interesting stuff from science. At one moment, in 1 second, we're receiving about 4 million bits of information.
Okay.
But you're only aware of 134.
I don't even know that. I wouldn't even know what 134. Which one it is?
So you're getting like 4 million pieces of information being thrown at you every second.
Yep.
But you can only consciously pick up 134. The balance of it, your unconscious mind is picking up. Okay. So part of accelerated learning is learning how to kind of be in a relaxed physical state, because that kind of opens you up.
And so that we can absorb more than what we like the 134 that you mentioned just now. Okay.
So there's a few things that I want to share with people. One of them is, if you want to learn fast, you need to run your mind slow.
Remember when we talked about it yesterday, it sounds so unintuitive, like to say go slow in order to go fast.
Okay.
Right.
But
So walk us through that. Walk us through that. Right.
All right. So maybe if you guys can take off the slide for a while, then I can actually use my hands to kind of demo this. Okay.
Okay, Shoba, could we get the slides off?
All right.
Okay.
So you guys can see me now.
Yes.
Have you ever driven in the rain?
Yes.
And you turn on your wipers. And if you turn on your wipers so fast, you can't even see, there won't be any drops of rain hitting your screen, right?
Right.
So you don't even know it's raining if you went fast.
Okay.
So imagine that actually you're receiving a lot of ideas from what's happening in front of you, but because your mind is really noisy and thinking too fast, nothing penetrates.
Okay, I get like we are so honed into that one thing that we are doing, or that we
Either that, or the chatter in your head is so noisy that you don't notice things happening in front of you, so nothing can penetrate.
Okay, all right.
So that's why that thing about relaxing your body and opening your senses, it tends to slow down your mind. And there's a few ways that I can share with you guys to slow down your mind. One of them is really just paying attention to your body. If you pay attention to, like as you're sitting there listening to my voice, and you feel the weight of your body sitting on the chair and you're maybe leaning back, and maybe you can pay attention to the warmth of your hand and your body, and maybe even the tension in your neck. And the moment you just pay attention to your body, you probably notice that like the internal dialogue in your head just kind of reduces a lot. You kind of blank out.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's one way. The other way, of course, is just to really focus intently on the thing that you're trying to learn. That's why the intention of wanting to learn helps. But the last one is something I just learned a few weeks ago, and it's ridiculous, but it works. When you want to stop the noise in your head, just open your mouth a bit.
I'm trying it.
It works, right?
I'll have to practice more.
No, I mean, when you open your mouth, suddenly like, because then maybe give you the opposite example. When we're reading, most people learn how to read by saying the words out.
Yeah, especially very beginning, yeah.
Yeah, we move our lips silently actually when we're reading.
Oh, really?
especially, but if you just open your mouth, you don't hear the voice when you're reading. You just see the pictures.
Yeah, there's an internal voice, I guess. When you're reading, like some people do say this, like when you're reading, let's say a story, let's say I'm reading Harry Potter,
yeah,
right? And when the dialogue of Harry Potter comes out in the book, the voice of that Daniel Radcliffe is playing in my head. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, that or your own voice.
Right. I think for me, even because I've watched the movie, so his voice would appear, and I sort of like imagine his face and him saying it. It's not just the voice; it's a visual of him saying it.
But that's really cool. Cool. All right, let me continue with the slides.
All right. Okay.
So this is certain ways that you can access your unconscious mind by just paying attention to your body.
Right.
And if you move slow enough, actually your intuition will tell you more things. But you have to tell it what you want to find out as well. Okay. I want to give the teachers, because everyone learned this learning cycle thing. Okay. Even me as a lecturer, when we went for a learning and pengajaran dan pembelajaran, learning and teaching course at UMS, we had to learn kind of a version of this. So probably you all learned this as well. At the beginning, when you're trying to learn something, you're unconsciously incompetent. So from if you use the bicycle riding analogy, there was a point when you didn't even know a bicycle existed. So you don't even know you want to ride a bicycle. Okay. Then you see a bicycle and you want to ride, but you don't know how to ride. So you know that you don't know. Okay. You realize you're incompetent. Okay. Yes. So you're consciously incompetent. Then your dad or your mom or your family member teaches you how to ride, and you have to pay attention. The moment you stop paying attention, you fall down and you hurt yourself. So this one's when you're consciously competent. Okay. Right. And now, maybe 20 years later, even if you've never ridden a bike since you were a teenager, even in your 40s or 50s like me, you can get on a bike and not think about it and still ride a bike.
Yes, that's definitely true. Yeah.
So we get to this point where
there's some skills that just don't leave you, isn't it?
Yeah. So we get to this point where we're unconsciously competent. But I want to share with you, because we are all teachers, okay? So we can help people, because if we teach people the conscious competent part, like we teach them the inner and the outer skills, meaning like you teach them the steps of how to do something like math or language, but you also tell them what to think internally about, okay, when I see this problem, I think about this and then I do this. So you can accelerate people's conscious competence by giving them the strategies of what you did and how you're thinking. And if you want to go deeper, how you're feeling as well.
Right.
Okay. So like you're teaching language, so you probably you might even be telling your students that when you hear something and you feel this is the right word, then you say it.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. To a certain degree, we even like, especially when teaching English, right, to Malay language learners, right, we always say or at least I always tell them you have to think in English as well.
Yep.
Right. If you're thinking in Malay and then you're trying to literally translate it into speech, it's going to be problematic, right? Okay.
So this is the normal thing of how people learn. But the one that is interesting to me is this. Let's say you're already very good at something, but you want to get better.
Yeah, of course.
So let's say we all can drive, right? You can just shift your gear without thinking. Yes. If you wanted to be a better driver, what you can do is you bring your unconscious competence back to conscious. So when you get in your car and you drive, you pay attention to the things that you used to do automatically. Like, you hit the clutch, you shift the gear, you accelerate. So you pay attention consciously to what you're doing and start noticing which things could be better and then try something new. And there's a funny cycle about the human brain, which is when you bring things conscious, initially it's a bit of a struggle because you have to pay attention again like you did when you first learned how to drive. But when you figure out which one you want to improve and you do it a few times or maybe many times, after a while you can't concentrate anymore because it's too easy again. Then suddenly you forget. Right. But you're better than you were before. So all the great athletes or people who become really good at what they do, they have this strategy. They take what they're already good at, bring it back, bring a small piece back to be conscious, practice it consciously, improve that part. And there's a part when the mind starts forgetting because it becomes automatic again.
This is so appropriate that you brought this up, because just very recently I was talking to a teacher, and we were trying to talk about a new strategy of teaching, which is differentiated teaching and learning. So we're trying to introduce this to teachers, right? Basically, differentiated teaching and learning is teaching in one class, but providing different schematics of methods of teaching for different maybe levels or different competencies or preferences of students. It's not a new concept. But some teachers, they will say that they have been doing this all this while, but they did not know that it was a strategy called differentiated teaching and learning. But once we brought this to their attention, that actually what you are doing is this. So then the next step is to then tell them, since now you know the concepts, so you will consciously plan for it in the next few lessons instead of doing unconsciously, right? So what happens is then they can systematically choose which processes they want to differentiate, instead of before that they were just doing it unconsciously. So they get results, but they did not know how those results appeared. So I think this relates very well to what you were just saying, right? Whatever that you're already doing, now we are just going to put it back to our conscious self and restructure it so that we can repeat it, right? We can repeat the good practices, at least, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right. Perfect. I think that's great.
All right, cool, great, Adrian. Let me continue with the next part. All right, I'm going to just rush through this so I can give you guys the last part. These are just some tools that NLP uses that applies in terms of accelerated learning. The first one is, we found that whenever people can define clearly what they want, actually they get the natural motivation and focus to move towards it. The other thing is, managing your emotional and mental states is extremely important, because different states of mind give you different levels of performance for different contexts. Like, what makes you good at driving isn't the same one that makes you good at studying. What makes you good at studying isn't the same thing that makes you good at golf. So being able to switch and identify what emotional mental states of mind is very important. NLP is also very good at helping people change their beliefs, so that you go from where you believe that you cannot improve to where you think you could improve if you took effort. And then there's these two language patterns. The first one is called the Milton Model, which is kind of a hypnotic language pattern, which you can use to promote or plant ideas in people's minds. And the metaphor I can use is more like you're trying to marinate people by gently giving very constant, regular, positive suggestions. So things like when teachers and lecturers say things like, one day when you're an engineer and you're doing this, actually we're making future suggestions to telling people about how they could be, and you're giving people visualization that
a subliminal message, right? Okay.
So actually we are doing this to each other all the time. It's just that if you do it consciously, you can really positively influence people. So in Chinese, what we say, the grandfather stories, right? Those things that teachers and lecturers and your parents lecture you by telling you stories, if you deliberately use them, you can actually very powerfully influence people. And lastly, it's the thing called Metamodel, which is just learning how to precisely communicate to either find problems or to create solutions. And if you use it properly, it can actually get you work in doing business consultancy as well. All right, and finally, this is kind of the thing that I started off with, Shobha. NLP actually started off with modeling people, which is learning how to find out how someone does something and be able to replicate it. So initially, NLP modeled people who are very good at therapy, but later on, the methods of replicating was what is NLP's main strength. But they just don't tell anyone about it. So let's say, I think for teachers, you guys have what I call, I don't remember, there was a term in Malay, the one about the excellent teachers.
Guru Cemerlang, is it? Guru Cemerlang, yes.
So let's say you wanted to, this teacher is about to retire, but you want to replicate his or her talent. So you try and look for someone who's quite consistent, like they're always able to do a certain type of skill consistently. So maybe they're very good at turning around students who are very unmotivated, or they're very good at explaining complicated things, or they're very good at teaching a particular subject like math, okay? And so you look for someone who's consistent, who's got good results, good performance. And the last one is, if possible, try and find someone who can explain how they do what they do. However, having said that, a lot of experts that I've done this work with, they don't know how they do what they do, even though they're really good at at what they're doing.
I get what you mean.
So the first step is you get their permission. Like you tell them, like, oh, look, I want to observe you to see how you do what you do. So you observe like the steps that they do, like how they prepare, how they present, how they respond.
They will have to be very open and extroverted as well to be able to allow you to deconstruct their everyday routine, isn't it?
Yeah. So this is kind of if you do it consciously, you also have to ask for their conscious permission to do it as well.
Right.
So you know what their process of doing what they do, and from there you can actually do the explicit part. Like you can actually say like, okay, this teacher, like for today's lesson, he actually prepares 2 weeks from now, and like he reads these books and then he sets up this way and he mind maps this way, and he prepares the materials this way. So there's like explicit actions and things that you can see.
Right.
But the interesting thing is there are things which are going on implicitly, which are kind of in that picture in the light bulb. Okay, which is things like you can ask him. The first question is like, when you're doing this skill that you're very good at, where are you? Like where, like is it in the classroom or at home? So for each of the steps, get him to be more specific on the environment. Okay. Then you can ask him specifically, what does he think he does, or what does she think she does? What behaviors, actions, how, and sometimes you can ask them, how is their decision process like? Why did you do this in this sequence and not in that sequence? Okay, so for instance, like for me, for my creative process, I tend to listen to fast music and I pace. And I turn on the music and then walk around in circles, then I start drawing things on paper. And it's in that sequence. If I do it, I draw on paper, then I turn on the music, then I walk, it doesn't work.
Oh, okay.
So if you ask the person that and they tell you your steps and then you ask them to try and rearrange it and try it and it doesn't work, then you know what the sequence is. Okay. So that's the behavior.
So that's a behavioral experimentation as well.
Yes.
All right.
Then you also ask them about their capabilities, like what do you think your capacity is, like what knowledge do you have that made you be able to do this? Like what sort of skills or competencies? And it doesn't necessarily have to be those hard things that we do on paper. It can even be just like, well, I like to draw a certain way. I'm good with my right hand. Okay. Could be as simple as that. Then the next part is where things get kind of very interesting. And it's about, you can ask them, what are their beliefs and values about themselves and the thing that they're doing when they're doing it.
Yeah.
Okay. And when you're asking them this, they actually have to be in that state of mind. So actually you want to catch them while they're doing it. And you ask them, okay, when you're doing this, like, what do you believe? And you'll get interesting answers because I've done work with professional musician, professional golfer, and professional dancer. And I did modeling with them on this sort of process. And when they're in that mode, the beliefs that they believe are very interesting. Like for the musician, she believes that when she's at the excellent state, she can't see the people, but she can hear them clearly, meaning her audience.
Okay. All right.
For the dancer, her belief was that she can choreograph and create steps, but she doesn't have to create it all in one piece. She actually learns it as she goes along. So she creates it as she goes along. So she has to start. She knows the first 2 steps, which goes to the next 2 steps until it's finished. Then only she sees the whole picture. Well, some choreographers is that way. They see the entire thing at once. Okay, so different people have different strategies. But that's her belief and her values. And then there are things like values. So things like, for all of you who are teachers like me, like we all have similar values. Things like, we really believe that people can learn. We really believe that children deserve to have the best from us. Or we really believe that we can learn something. We need to learn something new to try and teach them differently. Like we have all these beliefs. And if you ask people deeply, you may find out they have a different belief that isn't common that makes a difference.
Okay. For example, let's say especially things about related to teaching or maybe parenting.
I'll give you a very strange belief. One of the beliefs that I have is that you might also believe that everything is possible, because if it's not possible, you'll find out.
Right.
But some people, like they start things with the belief that maybe cannot do. So they don't try and they never find out whether it was actually possible. And some things we use logic too much, so we don't try.
Right.
Well, for me, I saw a lot of the good NLP people did it the other way. I was like, okay, if it's really not possible, I'll find out later. So I must believe it is possible until I find out otherwise.
Could it be just a personality thing where, some people are a little bit, neurotic, and some people less so? Some people are more, some people are go-getters, should you say that, right? So they
Can
do
be,
anything, they try.
So this is where the interesting part comes in, because if you want to copy how they do what they do, you wear their type of belief.
I see. So you are trying to pluck out all the values so that you can copy them as well. Those positivity, yeah, right.
So you
Okay.
can imagine, like, what if I was that way? Then there's things about the identity. So this is interesting because, like, when I did some work with doctors as well, and some of them is like, oh, I'm just a doctor. Some of them are more extreme, like I'm a healer. One of them told me their belief is not their sense of identity is I'm a health advocate. So if the teacher is the title, but who do you see you are?
Yeah,
especially when you do it.
That's a very existential question also, isn't it? Like, you're trying to ask them, like, let's say if I ask a teacher, what do you think you're really doing? So some, like you said, some will say, oh, I'm teaching, I'm just doing my standard job. But some will be truly trying to change children's lives, and they are saying that, and stuff. Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. So again, so when you ask people this question, you may get very unusual answers. And if you want to copy their skills and you adopt their belief or their values, you might be able to produce similar results. And lastly, of course, the sense about what are you connected to, or what is the important values in your life that shows up by doing what you do. It's more of a sense of purpose, but it depends on everyone.
Yeah. I don't like cutting you off here, because how I wish we could speak longer, but it's already 9:18. I think we have probably 5 or 10 more minutes.
Last slide.
Right. Okay.
So these are my contact details, which Shobha has really kindly shared in the group. And that's it, guys. Question and answers. So I'll. Thank you, Adrian.
What insightful, and like I realize this. I feel like it's such a short conversation. I feel like we need to really explore this further, and there are some things that you wanted to do, actually, things like do practices regarding our senses and stuff like that has to be experienced truly hands-on, isn't it? Like I feel like this is just a snippet of what you usually do in your NLP core programs. Right. But if I were to ask a few questions, right? The first, I like how you began by saying you were comparing children versus adults, and you were saying the creativity of children is always there, right? And I think we do lose a little bit of our childish imagination and creativity as we go older. Is there a methodical way that you can suggest that how we can maybe gain some back?
And part of it is this. Okay. It could be as silly as this. Adrian, when you think about last week, where's the memory?
Oh goodness.
Like, no, literally, just use your hands. Tell me where.
Last week, my memory would be here, maybe. Like.
All right. So this is an interesting thing. We actually mark time.
Yes.
So your past is here, your future is here.
Right.
So, and some people is this way.
Okay.
So when
I think of it laterally, right?
So if you know this, and now that you know your direction,
right,
you could literally imagine yourself going that way to like 30 years ago,
right,
and go back to your past and remember what it felt like.
Maybe it's hard to think about the one last week, but I think there are some memories that I have when I was a kid that I know so vividly. I can imagine where I was standing, what I was holding, what I was talking about with my parents. Maybe, like, there are some very vivid memories, but not the recent ones like last week or yesterday. I don't have that so vividly, but there are some when I was in. Is that something that I can recall back?
Yeah. Because the human mind is interesting. You can remember negative emotions and trauma so fast, but we forget positive stuff from the past so easily. So actually, now that you know your memory goes this way, you could literally just start seeing back that way, and actually, as you get more vivid back into the past, you'll be able to recall the childlike states. Of course, things like goofing around and playing and having more free time brings that out as well.
Okay.
Okay.
So that means to recall back that kind of childlike creativity is to also do childlike activities.
Yep, and also literally go back to the the feeling of the past.
Right. Okay.
We don't give ourselves enough of that.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's true.
Yeah. So actually, your past experiences are very, very functional and useful. Let me answer Shobha's question.
I was gonna get to that. Yes.
Is internal dialogue spoken out loud normal behavior? Okay. Actually, internal dialogue is normal. That's how we think as human beings. Spoken out loud, also normal. It just depends. Okay. This is my theory. I could be completely wrong. Okay. I notice I'm more of an introvert. So what happens to me is I think about it. By the time I finally have a conclusion, then I say something else. My partner Cruz, she's the opposite, which is to think she has to say, and by saying the word, it triggers the thinking that gives her the clarity. So Shobha, I don't know. For the person that you're thinking of, maybe they work that way too. They talk it out literally. Hearing their voice makes them get the clarity.
In other words, Shobha, do you do that a lot? Do you have extroverted internal dialogues with yourself? But I think that's okay, isn't it? That's just the way we perceive and the way we try to deduce things in our mind, isn't it?
Yeah. No, in fact, it's one of the strategies that Einstein used. What Einstein did was when he did those thought experiments of imagining he's on that light beam.
Right.
As he saw the pictures of what he was doing, he says what he sees, and he responds. That generates new pictures. So the sound generates pictures, generates the answer. So that creates the imagination that gave him the answer for relativity.
Well, Shobha, you're in good company then. If you're an Einstein doing the same thing, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Last question before we move on to the next session. Right now, you talk a lot about we have to start paying attention to things, right? We have to be more aware and bring our unconscious to subconscious or unconscious to conscious. That's where we can get all these good practices and absorb the values that we want. Is there a way or a practice that we could do for our viewers out there to do at home? Maybe something to start with.
Okay. So Yisin asked me this question. So the part with the subconscious and the unconscious learning. Yisin, I'm really sorry. I'm going to answer you using a metaphor. Okay. Your conscious mind is like the part of you that drives your car. Your unconscious mind is the engine that moves the car. So if you have a good connection between the conscious mind and the unconscious mind, you can drive your car safely to where you want it to go. If you don't have clear focus on what you want, your car still goes in the last direction that you had, which is based on your past beliefs and values. Or just goes on default. Since it was left there, it just keeps moving. So to answer your question, how can this be applied in classrooms to help your students learning? Actually, one of the simplest things that you can learn, you can work with your students is just teach them how to do what's called a well-formed outcome, which is, so let's say you wanted them to achieve a certain result and they want it as well, okay? So you ask them to, okay, when you imagine this thing, what does it look like? Let's say you want to imagine that they went from like a C to an A. So they say that, okay, I see that I have the report card and I got this mark 80 something and I got an A. I also see that my parents talk to me and they're very happy. And then I see that I feel good and my body feels light. Get them to actually use all their senses, what they see, what they hear, what they feel for that thing. And when they feel comfortable with the picture, and normally humans have a funny thing. The moment your image is clear, you actually have a feeling of like something's pulling you or pushing you towards the thing that you want. Okay. And again, I kind of like to use this metaphors about relationship. Like when you first fall in love and you think about seeing your partner, there's that natural pull. So actually, human beings have a natural motivation process, but it comes with that clarity of the image. So for Yisin, if you're in KK, I'm always happy to meet with you and show you. But actually, just helping people be able to see, hear, and feel what they want clearly is better. And then the second part is on teaching people how to do the relaxation, meaning that teach them how to relax their body and teach them how to pay attention in class. So I'm hoping we all go back to school next year. In the meantime, for these remaining 2 months, maybe, yeah, I know, me too, because it's been really hard for me and my students.
Right.
Tell the students really about this thing about they learn faster when they can see you eye to eye, and also when you're teaching, if you can also turn on your camera, because the emotion and the visual connection actually triggers the learning as well.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
Eye
So, sorry,
contact, the body language, and all that, right?
Yeah.
Okay, well, hopefully that answers everybody's questions. Thank you to our viewers who have been actively also maybe personally texting Dr. Siva as well, and those posting in the live chat, right? So before I pass the torch back to our MC, LC, hats off
Thank
to our
you.
speaker for the day, Dr. Sivakumar, for his
Thank you.
generosity, right? Sharing his views and practices and letting us explore ourselves deeper. I like that. I like that journey of self-awareness and trying to transform ourselves in practical and methodical ways, right? So on behalf of the iSENSEI team, we thank you and we'd like to present an e-certificate to Dr. Sivakumar.
Thank you.
So I'm your moderator, Adrian, wishing everyone stay safe, all right? Have a good weekend and signing out. Back to you, LC.
Oops.
All right, so that was the e-certificate. Thank you again, Dr. Siva, for your time. All right. Who knows if one day we can go back face to face, we will have a real hands-on course. There we have LC, right? Back to our MC of the day.
And yeah. Well, thank you very much. There you go. Thank you very much to Adrian for the wonderful job done as a fantastic moderator to this inspiring, clarifying session by Dr. Sivakumar.
Thank you, Elsie. Hope you
If
guys
you
have
look
fun.
at the chat, thank you, Doctor. If we look at the chat, we might not see a lot of viewers now, since it's a weekend and it's a Friday. We used to have what a famous saying before. They said TGIF. Thank God it's Friday. So most probably everybody are trying to catch up with their loved ones. But don't worry, we will continue to share the link to our friends, because I'm sure and we wish that everybody will be able to watch and hear what has been shared during this session. So before we end, I would like to take this opportunity to call upon our project manager, Ms. Yong Pena, to give us a closing remark or conclusion. Over to you, Pena.
Hi and good evening again. Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Siva, for lovely and wonderful and very insightful sharing to us tonight. Well, for those who have joined us, I'm sure that we have learned a lot from you. Okay, yeah, I would like to take this opportunity also to thank JPN, especially Encik Iqbal, okay, for initiating this as a platform for all of us to learn, to grow ourselves in this all these CPDs courses. Okay, actually we are learning throughout all these sharings, and of course to all the educators who have put into our head and all the arms and all the strength together within this 42 no it's 40, like within 48 hours, okay, to come up with these sessions. Okay, thank you very much to especially to Shoba to to initiate this and then to coordinate with Dr. Siva so that we can have this session tonight. Okay, and so thank you very much to all the AJKs to for all the efforts. Okay, and also to all the audience who who are able to join us tonight. Okay, so so let's call it a night. Thank you. That's all. And have a nice weekend. Yeah. Good night, everyone. Bye bye.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, guys.
Yeah, bye.
Good night.
Have a good weekend.
everyone.
Have a good weekend, everybody.
Yeah, thanks so much.